Hello, everyone. We are very glad to have you with us today. My name is Patrice Johnson, and I'm the events moderator. Our speakers will kick off today's session in just a few moments, but since we still have some people logging in, I'm going to just take this opportunity to do a bit of housekeeping before we dive in. So first of all, a sound check. If you can hear me, please just raise your hand in the GoToWebinar panel. Okay. All right, looks like I'm seeing some hands there. Okay, we'll give it a couple more minutes. Again, if you all can hear me, those that have joined the webinar, if you can hear me, go ahead and raise your hand in the GoToWebinar control panel. Great, okay, now I'm starting to see some hands pop up. Awesome, fantastic. Okay, so next thing, we definitely encourage you to ask questions during the webinar. You can do so in the questions panel of the GoToWebinar control panel. Just be sure to, when you ask your question, be sure to address whichever speaker that you're asking that towards. So if you want to ask a question of Navdip, please preface your question with her name, or the same thing for Manil. If you want to ask him a question, you can place his name before your question as well. And to make the most of your webinar experience, we recommend that you close out any unnecessary apps running in the background to prevent any type of latency or delay between the slides and the audio. If you encounter any technical issues, you can please send me a message in the chat panel, but just note that it may take me a few moments to get back to you as we are trying to manage the session at the same time. So we will give this just a couple more minutes to let people join, and then we'll get settled in and start the webinar. Just another moment and we'll get the webinar started here. All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Automate Your Testing with DevOps, with Navdip Kalsi and Manil Kapoor. Our speakers, the very first one that's going to come up is going to be Navdip, and she is a technology and people leader with nearly 18 years of experience in software configuration and management. Her experience is varied from leading enterprise-level digital transformations, setting DevOps discipline, and supporting the enterprise change with a customer focus. In her current role, she serves as head of engineering at MeBank. And our second speaker is going to be Manil Kapoor. Manil is a senior test automation engineer working out of KiwiRail in Auckland. He's a seasoned campaigner with loads of experience across different test automation projects. Manil is a test automation coach at Industry Connect and co-organizer of the biggest testing meetup in New Zealand, Ministry of Testing, Auckland. Okay. And without any further ado, I'm going to turn over the presentation over to Navdip.
Sure. Thanks, Patrice. Let me start sharing my screen. I hope everyone can see my screen.
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay,
Navdip, can you remove, we've got the GoToWebinar control panel on your presentation there. Perfect. Thank you.
So fine now? Good?
Yes, the floor is all yours.
That's good. Thanks. Good morning, everyone who all are from New Zealand and Melbourne, and good day if anyone is from the other places. As Patrice has already introduced me, so I'm a technology leader. I have 18 years of experience, and cloud DevOps discipline is what I usually do in my day-to-day work. So the topic which we are going to cover and which Patrice has already explained is how DevOps has changed the testing. So I'll just, so the slides which, just one, bear with me. Yep, so this introduction has been done, so I'll not repeat myself. I'll go to the next slide. I just want to call out a few more things which I think is good. So yes, I'm a finalist in Women in Digital Technology Leader for 2020. And in my free time, apart from doing the work and the DevOps and the cloud and thinking, and I like to read books, and I do volunteer work over the weekends for my local community, because community progress is very important. Anything else, if someone wants to connect with me, more than happy, please do send me a LinkedIn request with a message, which gives me a easy like background at why we are connecting. So let's start with our presentation. So DevOps. So most of us who are attending this, and I'm going to say that we have been hearing this word of DevOps from 2012, because that was a time where configuration management and a lot of words which were going around, suddenly it got a new name of DevOps. Yes, DevOps is nothing but a development and operations. But if you see my diagram, it is not only about development and operations. I've also added the quality assurance, because everyone talks about that, okay, DevOps is nothing but developers and the operations team working together, or the same team doing the development and operation, which is true, But somewhere down the line, when the DevOps started, everyone started ignoring the importance of testing or the quality, why the quality assurance is needed, why it was needed. And that is the reason I would like to talk, that how DevOps is playing a very important role in the testing, and why testing is very important for any successful CI/CD. We always call CI/CD, but CT, continuous testing, is very much part of it. So now this one is like why companies like to do DevOps, or why we do DevOps. In a very simple word, DevOps gives us the speed and the quality of a product release. It allows us to get the response of our customers quickly, because we are going to do a time to market very quickly, which allow us to get a quicker feedback. And also, we always think, and recently I've been seeing there are a lot of DevOps engineer role, but for me, DevOps is a discipline. And any person, when they are known as a DevOps, I really think that they understand all the practices, the principles of the DevOps. So yes, most of the companies are now looking into DevOps, and there are organizations which are like startup, they can do the DevOps very easily. But any organization, especially at the enterprise level, yes, it becomes difficult to follow the practices of DevOps. But let's see how testing is being impacted. That will allow us to understand it more. So now the question is why we are here, or what you're going to get after this session. The first one is why DevOps for testing. This is something which we are going to cover in our entire session. The next one is how to develop your DevOps testing strategy. Because if you don't have your DevOps testing strategy, I think that is where should be our first point as an organization, as a team. If you're part of a testing team or an automation team, you should be asking your line managers or senior management that what is a testing strategy, because that is very important. Then is the what are the best practices for DevOps testing. Yes, there are a lot of best practices for DevOps, but I'll be focusing mainly on the testing so that we can cover what we want and what are the practices need to be followed for the DevOps. And the last one will be the DevOps principle. And again, there are a lot of principles. Everyone have their own definition of DevOps, and everyone have their own principle which works. But I really want to cover which will be useful for a testing. I would like to start with one of the quotes which I really like, and I really like to relate onto it. So this is by a person by name Mike Kirsten. He's a founder and CEO, and he is one of the person who did a very amazing debate for testers' role in DevOps continuous testing. And quote is very nice. It is like, I think quality is core. You need to treat quality as a product internally, and you do not outsource a core product. And this is something which I really would like to start with my story. So when in 2002, when I finished my uni and I was an intern in Honeywell, India. I started as intern as a test engineer. And of course, I was an intern, so there was a lot of opportunity for me to learn, and I did learn. But after 3 months of working, doing the hard work, doing the code coverage, doing the bug fixes, sending the reports, the feedback which I got from the manager was, and it was not only for me, it was for all the tests, like we were 5 to 6 interns in that team, and the feedback we got was, why you guys are not thinking out of the box? And that feedback was a little bit too much for me, and I was like, oh my God, I did so much hard work, but why I'm not getting the value out of it? And I think I really thought about it, at what is missing as a tester in 2002, what is missing in my life. And then I started realizing we are doing the testing when someone tell us, okay, this is a code, you have to write a unit test for this. No one told us where are the developers. No one showed us the requirements. No one showed us that what is the end product look like. No one showed us how the planning was done. So I think that gave me the answer that why we are not thinking out of the box, because we don't have the actual information. Why? Because the testing was outsourced to us. And I think that was a point where I felt that no, testing is something which needs to modify. Yes, I moved on from as a test engineer to a developer. And then again, there was a time when I started doing in 2012, when the DevOps was there, I started creating my team, and I was like, no, I need test engineers in my, I need testers in my team. So I think it has really evolved from where it was, but I still see organizations where they outsource the testing, thinking that testing is not needed to be part or as close to their operations and the developers. And I think that is the mistake most of the organizations are still doing. So if you see any organization where they say that they are DevOps, but if their testing is outsourced, it is not in-house, if the testers are not sitting closely with the developers, if their testers are not part of the agile practice, the day-to-day ceremonies of agile, or if they're not part of the planning, you know that they are not DevOps. So let's go to the next one. We all know how traditional testing work. We all have experience. Yes, it used to start when the software was developed. That was when already something has been developed. We, like testers, were called in to do the testing, and it was very manual process. That is where hard work was coming, not the smart work. So yes, it used to take long time, and it only supported the silos, and silos is not a good indication. And I always say, if you're doing DevOps, there shouldn't be a known word of silos there. So now let's see how we can develop our DevOps testing strategy. So this is very important. So if anyone wants to understand testing and the DevOps together, I think this is something which should be done. So first one is defining your goals. I'll go one by one in the next slide. So this first one is defining the goals. That is, figure out which test needs to be automated. So when we say we want to automate the test as part of the DevOps, I think we first need to find out what type of test needs to be automated, why we need to automate, and what value we are getting out of that. If we can define that goals, I think that is a starting point. Second one should be planning a test approach. We need to decide on the testing method, the scope, and the responsibility of the team as well. If team is not part of the planning, if team is not doing the testing method decisions, I think then something is missing there. The third one will be select test automation framework. There are a lot of test automation frameworks available in the market, but again, it depends on what you as an organization, what you need as a team. But out of the main focus of getting out of the framework is the detailed guidelines which we need to follow for writing and running the test. Because if we are saying we are going to have a team, all the team members should speak the same language. When I say speak the same language, they need to follow the guidelines. Then it is select your tool. Always select the tool which is aligned with the team outcome. There are a lot of tools, and I think with DevOps, I think getting the tools is, yes, very important, but DevOps is not only for the tools. It is much more than that. But to do your testing properly, yes, you need a tool. And there are a lot of tools which will go again in detail in our next slides. Create and run the test. Write your test templates. When I say write your test templates, the main thing which I'm trying to say is whenever you're writing your test, think how it can be reused, not only by your team, by other teams also, so that we are reducing the wastage. Then comes maintain the scripts. Of course, whenever you are writing your scripts, please define the purpose of the scripts so that any other team, if they are in a plan or if they are developing their testing strategy or if they are starting as a new team, they can make use of your scripts. I know I can't ask the questions on the audience, but I really want you all to think whatever I have just discussed this here, the DevOps testing strategies. I really want you to think that who will be part of the above discussion. If your answer is team, then I think it is good. If you think it is going to be a senior management, I would say still the DevOps is very far away. So all this needs to be a team discussion, defining the goals, planning, testing, test framework, create, run, and maintain the scripts. This is very important again. Someone asked me in one of the other conferences, do you think the test role will be needed in future? And I was like, why you think that? Then that person asked me, we don't do any testing in DevOps. And I'm like, really? You really think that we don't do any testing in DevOps? And I actually have to show him this picture. So we actually do testing in each phase of DevOps. So starting from planning, branching, code, merge, build, release, deploy, operate. So we do testing everywhere, and hence I always say testing is very important part in DevOps. Now let's do the DevOps testing best practices, and I will just go from leverage automation to the awareness. And awareness, everyone knows, it is mainly about the awareness of how we have to do the testing. So the first one is how we are going to leverage our test automation, and in the bracket it is mentioned smartly, and I'll let you know why we have said. So in the DevOps environment, the developers, they are frequently merging the code to a central repo, which means we are trying to aim for a continuous integration. And if we are aiming for continuous integration, this is where our continuous testing needs to be done. Continuous testing can only happen if we are doing the test automation, but smartly. When I say smartly, don't write your unit test or your functional test or acceptance test or integration test which cannot be reused. First thing. Second thing is, don't spend too much time on your test scripts that you feel later that, oh, it was a wastage. So that is where your testing strategy and the scope needs to be defined. So you need to do the test automation, but do it in smartly, where you're not feeling that, okay, I have done a script and this script will fit for all my test scenarios. No, we need to do our testing automation, which will change with each code which developers are going to do. So your testing, how we say any platform needs to improve, your testing, your unit test, functional test also needs to change. And that is where you need to put those into your version control so that you can see how you're creating the new versions and how you're doing the changes. The second one is identify the test automation engineers. Of course, with the DevOps, everyone can do all the roles. So I do have my team, I don't call them DevOps engineers. I call them platform engineers. I call them cloud engineers with what specialization they have. But what is the composition, what I have in my team? So I have one of the engineer who comes from a networking and who understands the platform engineering very well. Then I have an engineer who comes from a testing background and he is part of my team. Then I have someone from security who comes and help me with the platform. So the reason why I'm saying is, yes, you need to have your test automation engineers, but again, you can have a dedicated test automation engineering team, or you can have a team which will be developers, test automation, security engineers together in one team. That combination, it depends on your organization needs. But if I look into a startup, it is good if you have all developers, testers working together. But if you're looking into an enterprise, I think having a dedicated team of test automation engineers will help them a lot, because they will have better say and better outcome compared to having them together in one team. Then comes the select the right testing tools. We did touch that during our develop our strategy. Again, as I said, when we are going to do a test automation, we really need to take care that we pick the right tool which is going to help us. And whenever I say pick the right tool, it should be the tool which should be supportive of the testing or the automation what we are doing. Then we are doing spending more time on the operations. So there are a lot of tools which are available. The Apply tools, JMeter, Selenium, SOAP, UI, these are just a few names which I have called out. Yes, we are in the presentation of Apply tools, and I always see there is a lot of good outcome which I see from the Apply tools, and I think it is one of the good tools if you're using for Visual Studio. And Manil Kapoor is going to do a very good presentation after mine, which will show you the actual use of these tools. So all I'm trying to say here is pick the right tool which will give you the right outcome, and the tool which is easy to use. You can use lot of tools, but never pick a tool which is not easy to use, because you want to get a benefit out of tool than doing any extra work for the tool. Now comes track performance. This is very important. As I have already touched base that when DevOps in 2012, the word DevOps came, everyone forgot about the testers. And I think it was just for some time, but later on everyone started realizing no, testing is very important, and that is where the continuous testing, automation engineer roles were created. But I always say why we need to track our performance. This is not because that we just want to show that what work we are doing, it is good for our team's outcome also. So I always say to all my teams that if you're working on something, it is always good to showcase the work which you are doing. That is, you have to track to show that how you are helping an organization to reach into the production. So all the organization, the end goal is to give the best outcome to the customer. And that happens only when we are giving or putting our code into a production and providing the stable environment. And that is where performance comes into it. So how we can track our performance? As a testers, I would say it is very easy. We can always say the number of test cases which we have passed, which have failed, the customer satisfaction index, and the number of bugs which we have identified, and the time taken for release. This is very important, and always say if someone is thinking of doing DevOps, start calculating your time to the production or how much time you're taking to release. So suppose without automation, if you have taken 5 hours, suppose I'm just giving you the example, if you have taken 5 hours, and with automation, if you're taking 2 hours to the production or to the release, so there is a win-win situation which you need to show, and that is where measuring your success is very important. And the last one is execution time for your automation suite. So this is, again, you want to convince your senior management, you want to showcase how the testing play a very important role. So tracking performance is very, very important. So now this one is maintain the proper documentation. And I'll not shy away from saying that most of the engineers, most of the developers, and most of the testers, they like to do the engineering work, but they always kind of miss or they consider documentation as the last activity they would like to do. But I would really say it is very important that we maintain the proper documentation, especially for testers. Reason, as soon as you have put your code and we have into a production, if there is any incidents, P1, P2, any kind of incident, that is a time where they're going to check your test summary report, or they want to check that how regression testing was done. So it is good for your own benefit. So please do spend time. And again, there are multiple tools which you can use to maintain your documentation or some kind of a proof which shows that yes, you have done this many test cases. More than showing to the others, it is good for your own self-check, or whenever someone is doing the post-mortem report of a production issues, it is good that you as a test team or automation team, you understand that yes, we have done this test cases, but maybe we need to include more for the future. So this will be more like your learning. So now coming to the which DevOps principle are most useful, and as I mentioned, there are a lot of principles, but we'll be focusing which are very much relevant to our testing. And one thing which you will see is with DevOps, of course, the continuous development, continuous automation testing, continuous integration, and continuous delivery is the main principles, but there are a few more which I would like to touch. Continuous development, all the development work, we all know that yes, all the development work is divided into the small portions for better and fast production. Engineers commit code in a small chunks multiple times a day so that it can be easily tested. Now comes to the continuous automation testing. So as an automation testing team, yes, the team is set, they are going to commit their testing using the automation tools like Selenium, Apply tools, and this is a point where testers need to make sure that they are sending the bugs and vulnerability reports to the engineering team back. If continuous development, continuous automation testing team work together, I would say that is a very good indication that they are set for a success to become a successful DevOps team. But I said it's a step one, because there are other steps which we are going to discuss. Then comes the continuous integration and continuous delivery. Of course, all the test cases which has been written, the automated test, it needs to be integrated. And once it is integrated, that is where the continuous delivery is going to happen. That is our code, our test cases, everything needs to work together to create a final product. And that is where the continuous deployment. So at the stage of continuous deployment, we always say the code is deployed to run in the production. It can be public server, yes. When we are at the stage of continuous deployment, we have already done three important principles: continuous development, continuous testing, and the integration. So to come to the continuous deployment, it is very important that we follow all those previous principles, and then we know that yes, we have continuously deployed in production. Then comes the continuous monitoring. That is very, very important. Everyone, if you think about DevOps, people say it is just about CI/CD. Actually, it is not only about CI/CD. There is a lot more into it, and that is, again, I'm just going to touch which are very important here: the continuous monitoring. The main goal of course, when you have done your work of development, testing, integration, deployment, you need right tools, the right patterns to monitor your production environments. And that will allow, again, a feedback chain back to the teams who have done the testing, who have done the development. The last one, I would say, it is last one for me, but I always call it a very, very important, the infrastructure as code. Whatever we are discussing in DevOps, and whatever I say that automation tester or engineers need to know is that the infrastructure as code. So everyone, whatever they are going to do, if it is done as a code, it will make everyone's life easy. Reason, we really want our code to be in such a, it should be written in such a good pattern. And if it is written as a code, it is easy for us to modify, debug, and do the changes and support all our teams. So now I'll just focus a little bit more on the continuous test automation. So test automation, these are, I just call it as a main tips. If you are a test automation engineer, then I think you should know that if you're writing your test cases, this is something which is expected out of it. So test automation should give you a quick and early feedback about your quality of work. The test which you're running, it should be consistent. It should have the deterministic and repeatable results. The test shouldn't generate a false positives. The small number of automated tests should be reliable, then making it as a very big unreliable test. And the main role of testing is, yes, we want to automate, yes, we want to do the DevOps, but never forget the key feature and the benefits which you are going to provide to your internal and external clients. So I always say to my engineers, don't gold plate it. First thing, whatever work you're going to do, how much time you're going to spend, is it giving the business value? And the business value is coming from our customers. And that is what is very, very important. So now again, it is very brief. Continuous test automation benefits. You can see from the diagram that cost is going to go down and profit will be increasing. Although it shows the cost is going to go down, but the cost will go down only if we have a proper DevOps testing strategies. If our goals are not defined, if our framework is not defined, if our patterns are not defined, then it will cost you more. So again, remember there was one slide where we said we need to do the automation, but we need to do it smartly. So these are again few, I would say, but these numbers are very important for anyone. So 70% faster than the manual testing, and this number has come from a lot of calculations which are done in the background. So if you as an engineer want to show to your senior management why automation is needed, I think these are the numbers which you need to calculate, and that you can do is by showing how much effort and time you're going to put into manual testing and how much effort you're going to put into the automation and the value which you get out of it. Second benefit is, of course, the test coverage of application features. It gives you a wider scope, reliable in results, because when you're going to do automation, it gives you more reliability and it will allow you to reuse, which you can improve time to time. Then comes the ensured consistency. Yes, saves time and cost, improves the accuracy. Human intervention is not required while execution, and that is what we are calling no manual steps are needed, which are more error prone. Increase efficiency. Of course, if everything is automated, it makes everyone's life easy to understand. Yes, there will be initial work, but it is easy to maintain. Then comes the better speed in executing tests and early to market. The whole idea of doing DevOps is how we can make sure that our customers are getting the product easily, quickly, and how customers can give us a feedback, and then we can make use of that feedback and then move forward with the improvement. And that is what the continuous test automation also is going to do. So this is how finally your testing should look in a DevOps environment. So this is what testing in a DevOps environment should look like. So if you're doing a testing, I would say please make sure that your testing is giving these 4 important points. And if it is stick to all 4 points, I would say you're very much on track, you're doing a right job. If it is not, start looking into how you can improve your strategies then. Testing should be continuous and automated process that enable continuous and fast delivery of software. Yes, we have discussed this. Testing should span every stage of software development lifecycle. This is very, very important. Testers should be automation team or testers or anyone, what title they have, they should be sitting with the development team and understand how they're going to play the important role of testing in each stage of development. Then each step of the SDLC involves different form of testing. This minimizes the backtracking in the case that you have detected an error. Again, this is a feedback what you get. If you get an error, yes, you know how to fix it. The testing should no longer be the responsibility of one particular team. That is a shared responsibility, which allow everyone to understand the impact of each change. So again, the last step is very important for the DevOps concept. Again, everyone should know why testing is important. Everyone should think where testing is needed. So yes, it can be a shared responsibility. It can be done by one person, but critical and important point is the testing team or the testers, they should be very much aligned to the development team. If both the teams or both the individuals are not working together, I think that is not a right environment, and that needs to be changed. So I just conclude that, as we always say, the DevOps have shift security left. I always say no, DevOps have shift testing left, because now continuous testing is what is making the software development process easier. Testing is starting with the development, and it allows to find the bugs as early as possible, then waiting for the regression testing, the unit testing, and all those kind of testing to be done later, and then again restart. So if you really want to progress, I think yes, DevOps is what you need for any organization, and testing and the test team should be working very closely with the developers as well. So I think I can take the questions now, we can take the questions later. Just one second. Let me check my questions tab if I have any questions. Okay,
Yes, so it looks like we do have a couple of questions that have come in, but I just want to thank you so very much. But also I want to make a comment. It looks like our chat panel is not displaying for our attendees. So if you did have a question or comment, please just go ahead and post it in the questions panel. If it's for Navdip or if it's for either the organizers, please feel free to do so. Navdip, we can go ahead. It looks like there's a couple of questions in here. We'll go ahead and take a couple, and then we will let Manil start on his. So sure. Are you able to see those questions in there? If not, I can read them out for you.
Yeah, 1 second. Let me check in the chat.
It's actually in the questions panel.
Oh, that's interesting. In questions, I'm seeing nothing.
That's okay. So I can read this out for you. Let's see. I'll start with a shorter question. What is your take on exploratory test in DevOps?
Okay, let me just, I think I just have to make my window big. Not so I can see it now. Sorry, I think it's better you read out. That will be easy for me. Yeah, sorry, what was the first question?
No problem. The first question is, what is your take on exploratory test in DevOps?
That's a good question again. And I would say it is as important as any other part of what we are doing in the testing. But again, it needs to be defined and well scoped during your DevOps testing strategy. If it is done during the initial phase, I think then yes, it is important as well, because any type of testing, I would say it is important in DevOps, but how we take it and how test team is communicating it back to the senior management is very important. So yes, it has the same importance as any kind of other testings.
Okay. Well, speaking of how you're reporting it back to senior management, what should be the communication strategies in the DevOps team?
Okay, that's again, so see, every organization have their own way of doing it, but because I see if any organization is looking into using the DevOps principles, I think they will be very much also thinking how to do the agile. So if they are like how we do, I would say, we do have our quarterly PI planning, and during our PI planning, we actually plan our work for next 3 months. Our plan, and during that planning, we do have an automation team, which is a very big team, and they are very much part of it. So during our planning, the automation team actually come and let us know what type of testing is needed, whether it is going to be, because anything which they're going to start from scratch, yes, it will need more effort and also writing more scripts. Whereas anything which is already in production, it will be just like rewriting or improving on those scripts. So during any planning, if the testing team can communicate, I think that is good. But again, it depends on organization to organization. Or the second way is if any organizations are very new and they don't know why testing strategies are needed, I would always say start with the facts, show them the value of automation, that is with the numbers. Show them like, okay, this was a task I did manually. It took me 3 hours, but this was a task I did with XYZ tool and I did a script. This is a value which I'm going to get. Show them the long, because any senior management, they will be happy to support anyone. It's just that we want to show them the value and the business outcome which we are going to give them.
Okay. We'll go with one more question before we go into the next talk. Let's see, and this one is a bit open-ended. Pick the tool, this is from a line in your talk. Pick the tool that is easy to use. This line confused me a little, as the tool that is easy for me to use may not be the best tool. This person personally believes that testers also need to upskill to pick up new tools to ensure that they are using the best suited automation tool. For example, I'm a pro in Selenium and my development stack is Angular. Should I still use Selenium with Java, or should I go to JavaScript-based framework like Cypress or WDIO or any other JavaScript-based tool?
So it's a good question. And again, I will give you answer based on how my engineering teams comes to me, like whenever they approach me for the tool. So there are 3 main things as a head of engineering I see, and I want my engineers to think. Always use a tool which is, I usually say, which is SaaS offering. So if it is service based, I as a team, engineering team, we don't need to maintain it. So pick a tool which is easy to use. When I say is, this is a tool which you are going to get a benefit than maintaining the tool. So recently there was a tool which was there in the market. I've not named the tool. It was more of an infrastructure as code tool, and that is where like we did take the tool, but we were maintaining a server for it. So I have to create a EC2 instance in AWS where we installed it, where we used it, and then again it used to go out of the memory. So there was a lot of problems which I faced. So I wouldn't use any tool where I have to do a work for the tool. So I always see the cost, what cost benefit I can get out of that tool, how less work I have to do or my team have to do. And also, if you understand Java, I suggest anything which you understand, you or your team understand, use that tool. Don't go and discover things only to use a fancy tool. So these are the 3 things. Anything which I understand, I would like to use that tool. So yes, please use which you already understand. Just to use new tool, don't go and discover your new path, because tool is not everything. You have to make sure that you're working using that tool to in your benefit than doing the extra work. I hope that answers that question.
Okay. We'll see if they post a follow-up comment, but thank you very much. Okay,
No
so let's go ahead and open up. Welcome, Manil. Thank you. Thank you. So we will go ahead and pass it on to you.
Okay. Thanks, Navdip.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Navdip.
And
thanks, Patricia. Okay.
Thanks. Manil, so you have taken the control now. I'll ensure.
Okay. Yep, I'm doing it. And now I can show my screen. Okay. Just Patricia, Navdip, anybody, can you share my screen? And can you see the slide best practices for visual test automation? If yes, just say.
Yep.
Okay.
We can see that.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thanks, Navdip. That was quite insightful. I got a lot of points out of it. I'm pretty sure all of our attendees must have got something out of it and will utilize it. Hi, I'm Manil Kapoor. So Patricia gave a quick introduction at the start. So I'll just sum it up. So I'm a test automation specialist out of KiwiRail, test automation coach with Industry Connect, and currently I was in the process of discovering some visual automation testing from last year or so, because currently working with KiwiRail, we are kind of upgrading a lot of our stuff, like websites in particular and apps, And quite a few of our requests came in that, let's try something different. Let's try some visual automation and see if it can help us, improve our code sets and improve our which functional test automation also. So this is my experience, which I've jotted down in summary, and I'll show you a quick demo at the end. Okay, so let's start it. So let's set an agenda. So first of all, I'll talk about what is visual testing, of course, why we do visual testing, when to start visual testing, visual test design tips. That's basically the essence of this topic, where I say, how based on my experience, where it is more valuable. And then I'll do a quick demo, and then I can take questions at the end and do a conclusion. So to start with, what is visual testing? So visual testing is an automated process of comparing visible output of an app or a website with a baseline image. Basically, it's like, excuse me, yeah, sorry, a bit of technical error. So if you see on the background, it's like, so you have this snapshot with a tree, face-like tree, which has green leaves on it. And on the right-hand side, you just have roots. So it's something like left-hand side green can be your base image, and right-hand side could be a checkpoint image in the language of visual test automation. And so second point, in the most basic form, it's basically a snapshot testing comparison, which you basically have a source image and a target image, and you do a pixel-to-pixel variation. And but tools these days do a lot of AI and ML and artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithm into them. And we'll see an example of it when I show you a demo. Why visual testing? So that's again my take on it. With responsive-based designs, a new normal, companies are heavily focusing on mobile first and mobile ready websites, because a lot of users, obviously the traffic is coming from mobile these days, and hence they can actually develop their native apps, but it's expensive. So companies either have a decision to make their current website mobile ready, mobile first. So I think that's a new norm these days for responsive design. So hence the scope of testing drastically increases with the modern UI framework development, such as React, Angular, Vue.js of the world. There are many more. So these two are the most popular ones. Hence testers need to take care of a lot of different combinations when they want to test. So one thing is functional testing. Other thing is testing the functionality cross-browser, cross-operating system. When I say viewport is basically the device ports. So on the right-hand side, it's just showing you a small matrix, which can actually become your, like a test point. So where, say for example, you're testing your website on a Windows version 10 Chrome browser, viewport 1200 by 800, which is a pretty standard desktop port. And language being English, because if your website, something like Amazon's of the world, so if you have to show contents in English, Mandarin, Hispanic, so you have to take care of localization testing, which is another beast in itself. And so going down in this matrix, so I show you 3 popular browsers in Chrome, Firefox, Edge. Why IE11 is not there? Because the support is going. You can check that on the Microsoft website. Mac, latest Safari. This viewport is for actually iMac. It's a huge port. And Chrome for 1920, and at the end I show the Samsung S20 viewport and the iOS. So think of this can come into a lot of different permutation combinations. So, and I think we guys use a lot of device farms when it comes to device-based testing, and I mean browser stack is another popular solution that companies use. So, but just to tell you why visual testing is important is this is the reason, because you get into a lot of permutation combinations. Okay, again, when to start visual testing? So you guys have heard about the shift left principle. So what it is, what shift left is? Shift left is a practice intended to find and prevent defects early in the software delivery process. So shift left basically means that you should start testing as soon as your development process starts. So my take on this is that based on the shift left principle, you should start the visual test automation or visual testing as soon as the elements or the design on your website or apps is finalized. Specifically, I'll give you an example of some complex elements control of widgets. Basically, those are example being storybook elements in React. So these are custom widgets or controls which you actually see on the websites, which are built native to the website, which you don't even notice are really like designed for the particular website, but they are very critical when it comes to different viewports or different devices and website views. Moving on. So this is the main essence of the whole topic. What are the visual test design tips? Again, these are based on my execution of the visual test and my creation of visual tests. So initially, just keep the visual and the functional test separate. I know there's a lot of urge to, like have your functional and the visual test hooked in together, but believe me, this is the best strategy to go to. Have your visual test really small and have in the areas of the application where they have the maximum business impact. So for example, if you're doing a visual test comparison, you want to see logo of your company on your main website compared to, when you have done like an iteration on the website. So logo should look similar. All your navigation menus at the start, they should not look distorted. They should have same look and feel. And at the end, the major one would be the landing page, the main landing page of your website or your app, where most of the traffic comes through and where you have to decrease your bounce rate at. So that's where, you should focus your efforts on and have it like really small visual tests. So another key thing which I've noticed while doing visual testing is like while writing an automation test, keep in mind that the functionality can be checked at the visual automation level. When I say automation test, it's a functional automation test. So I'll show you an example where I'm doing a test on a search functionality of a pretty popular website out here in New Zealand, and how I was able to, code a functional test in like less than 3 or 4 lines. So, yep. Fourth one, add a realistic validation level and port sizes. So I'll talk about the validation levels during the demo, but the port size is something which I showed you in the previous matrix. So the idea here is like if you have Google Analytics implemented in your website, which shows which viewport and which browsers maximum traffic is coming from. For example, say you're getting 30% of your traffic from Chrome, from Mac, or Safari is 20%, and iOS is like 15-20%, and then you just get 2% traffic from Edge, for example. So focus your effort on the maximum traffic points and code your visual test to those particular combinations like cross browser and viewport. I mean, you can go full berserk on having different combinations, but I would say the best idea is to focus on something which your users are which channels your users are coming from. When I say channels, the viewpoints and the browser combinations. And the biggest one, as Navdip pointed out, make sure that they are straight away added to the CI/CD pipeline to get the maximum benefit out of it. Any single code iteration to your UI, you should actually test on your existing visual test, because with the current React and Angular-based or other Vue.js frameworks, you never know, what element you will break. And we'll see something like that during our demo. I'll show you a quick one. Okay, now let's go to the next one. So demo. I had to look at the different tools in the market, so free ones and the paid ones. And below was my criteria for demo selection, because hey, you should have a criteria here. So not codeless, but less code. So that's my mantra. I would like to add a bit of my own flavor to the code, because hey, I'm a techie, and when I'm testing stuff, I would love to, like add some of my own things to it. The biggest one was, so there are a lot of things which go around with test automation these days. And then you have your office work and you have to read and upskill yourself. So the tutorials of the tool should be easy and working tutorials to follow. That was a big one. Again, another big one was the dev stack. So it should support the popular dev stacks, which are Java, C#, JavaScript. So outside Australia and New Zealand, Python is again a huge, big tech stack that has come up, and you have newer languages which have come up. Things like Dart is there, So, but I think if the tool is supporting Java, C#, JavaScript, and Python to some extent, I'm happy with it. Another big one for me was the test automation reports and output. It should give you good test automation reports and output, because hey, we are talking about visual testing, and if you're not able to see visually where your test failed, what points, or which area in your website, then what is the point of automating visual testing? Another big one for me, as Navdip pointed out, CI/CD. It should be very easy to integrate with CI/CD, meaning that you should be able to see your test and failure reports on these platforms like my current love being Azure DevOps because I use it day in, day out. And this was another one for me, which came from the management team. With my experience in different management teams, they always ask you that, can you integrate automation with the test management solution? Example being like, say for example, you find a bug. Is it possible to have like a bug kind of functionality where you can raise a bug inside the tool and it just raises the bug into a Jira directly? Or you might have seen the monitoring tool these days where if something fails, it will just ping your Slack channel or maybe create a Jira ticket for you. So this was another thing which I had a look at. And the winner by leaps and bounds was Apply Tools. So Apply Tools could do all these things, and it had multiple dev stack support, and it had a nice AI and ML, artificial intelligence and like machine learning algorithm implementation, which was very different from the pixel-based comparison tool which I saw. And it actually blew the different boxes, not just because we are doing the Apply Tools webinar, but I'll just show you a demo to show you what is the power of this thing. Okay, let's move on to Visual Studio. So I hope you can see my Visual Studio. I would love if Patricia or Navdip, anybody can say yes, I can see Visual Studio.
Yes, I can see.
Oh, okay, thank you. So guys, this is your typical, so I'm a Visual Studio guy, but I do Java every now and then. But I love like coding in Visual Studio. So basically, this is a .NET Core project. And it's a .NET Core 3.1 project. It's on a .NET SDK. And the coding language is C#. So what I did was I quickly created a test for a company called Countdown. And before going on this one, let me quickly show you what I am actually testing, just to set a scene. So let's search for Countdown. And I want to do shop Countdown. So just to give you a bit background to people who are not from New Zealand. So Countdown is like the Woolworth or arm of Woolworth in New Zealand. It's a grocery-based website and it has much more. And this company was awarded, like the CIO was awarded a prize during, like this last NZ Technical Week or something, because they have improved a lot of their IT processes. And that was one of the bigger reasons for me picking up their website as an example. And another personal reason was my wife actually works with Countdown. So that's why I picked up Countdown as an example. And I could see one or two of our colleagues who have also joined who are from Countdown. So yeah, best of luck to you guys. Okay, so what we are trying to do, say for example, there is a verification test for me that search the functionality. So this is the main landing page, grocery page on Countdown, and I love eating apples. So I'll search for gala apples. So I want to test the search functionality before I deploy everything to production. So when I search gala apples, so 2 apples come in. And when I just want to further check the search functionality, so I will say lose gala apples, so only one would turn up. So imagine if you have to code something like this in your Selenium-based .NET Core, or Cypress or anything, how much code you have to write and how much setups you have to do, or enterprise frameworks of the world. So let's quickly go on to how Apply Tools help me do this. So this is a .NET and unit test. So I created a Countdown test class, and I went a bit fancy, guys. So I created a Countdown main page. I just had 3 locators. So basically, we are using search bar and button search icon, and then name functions like get header locator, get search bar icon locator. I picked actually everything, all of these approaches from the videos of Apply Tools and the Test Automation University. It's a pretty cool website, guys. You should look at it, the Test Automation University. Anyways, so my test which I'll be showcasing first is like verify the search on shop Countdown main page. So it's pretty simple. It says that search for gala apples. So I go on send keys into the gala apple. I click the search icon. This is where the Apply Tools things start. So this is the name of the test. I'll quickly rename the name of the test. Rename it. I'll say demo, and I'll remove latest. And I'll just quickly show you what's under the hood. So I created a ICE manager, which was again a concept picked from one of their trainings, which was like just half an hour and pretty easy to follow. So what this thing does it, so they use a ICE, they call it Appy tool ICE, an object or their, I guess, their search mechanism or something. So if I go inside ICE, for those who are techies, it has a lot of other functionality, but we are not interested in that currently. So Appy tool ICE, what this thing does is, sorry, it expects a web driver to be passed to it. So it should be a Chrome driver or whatever. It expects an app name, and you should give it a test name for you to be uniquely identified on the test manager board or something, which I'll show you, or test reporting board. And then this is the main function, check window. What this thing does is basically takes a snapshot of the viewport. Like when I say viewport, for me, the viewport is from here till here, like this full window. And it can also do full window. I mean, like if you can, like, I'll give you an example of what full window is. And so 2 lines, and then at the last close, it was throwing an exception. So I just added something, fancy, return false, so I can just pass my or fail my test. So let's quickly run it. And when I will run it, it will create a baseline image, which will act as a comparison for me when I do the second run. So let's quickly run it the first time. So guys, 99% of the times the demos don't work the first time. So, don't have your hopes high. Okay, it opens up the website. Okay, yep. Okay, it's just for apples. That was very quick. Yeah. And so at this point of time, it is taking a snapshot of the page. So it has done that eyes dot view window or something. And now, so that was pretty quick. Now it is taking a snapshot of this thing, the loose. Okay. Oh, it failed. Yeah, I know why it failed. Sorry guys. It failed because I didn't. So this was an old. I didn't rename it. So but that's fine. We can just look at this one to start with, and then. So it was a legit failure. And I'll show you. So what it's saying is that the test search Gala loose Apple latest V1, it is having certain differences. So it has already detected some differences for the second test of us, which is okay. Now, to see this thing, what are the differences detected? We will go onto the Apply Tools website. I will log into the Apply Tools. And I'll just log in using my account. What I'm doing is I'm going onto the test manager plane. So it's already has me logged in. And if you notice, this is the demo test search Gala page. So it has shown you this is the first baseline image that this is here for us. And we have nothing to compare, because now what we can do is we can run it again to do a baseline comparison. So let's run this thing again. And I'll just rename it to demo. So that, yeah. So what I'm now doing is, because there is one baseline image created for the first test, which is just typing Gala apples. Now it is doing the second test, which will produce a actual image, which it will do a comparison with and show it on that test manager plane. And then we will talk about the functionality of the test manager plane and how awesome that is. So the test manager plane, okay, so yeah, okay, it's a pass. Let's go on to our test. Okay. Yeah, I think that is the old user. That is the old login which I had. So okay, yeah, I think it detected 2 logins, so it has logged me out, which is good. Good work, Appy, when doing a cross cookie to cookie comparison. Okay, so this was my initial demo thing, and this was the second one. I'll open this up. So this is the test manager plane for AppyTools, or whatever these guys call it, AppyTool eyes basically. So this has all the test results, it has branch baselines. For now, we'll just talk about test results. So these test results are located here in terms, and these names are coming from the test names that we gave inside here. So we gave the demo test search color Apple latest, and that's what is populated here. And that's what is here, latest V1. So from the, because of the SDK integration with the .NET Core, it picks up the operating system version, which is Windows 10, the Chrome version, which is latest 9.1, the viewport of my laptop, which is 1700. And if it would have been a device or emulator, it would have picked up that. And now let me quickly show you. So this test actually passed, and there was, this test should have a baseline comparator. So everything is honky-dory here, which is good in a way, not great for the demo. So what I will do is I will go to one of the instances where there was a failure and show you guys why there was a failure. So this was a previous test, if you remember. So that test failed for a single. So if you see, there are quite a few visual differences. So what on the left-hand side is, it's called baseline. It's using a strict algorithm for doing a comparison. And the checkpoint is the actual failure that we received the first time when we ran the test. So now let's go into these things one by one. So what's the difference? So the one, so if I just remove the differences for now, you will say, yeah, looks fine. Nothing is there. I mean, nothing has moved. Something, you know, for a human eye, it would be very hard to detect. You know, it will be like you can do something like this. No, nothing, all good. I mean, if I have glasses of a guy who has a huge number, I can see there is a bit of distortion here, but yeah, I mean, it would be really hard. No pun intended, guys. So if I go back to the diffs which have come out of the AL and the ML algorithm, so this is the difference it has seen, and search, Kala, Apple, something like that. So if you want to quickly see for, you know, your UI developers, what is the big difference? There's a thing called root cause analysis. When I click this, it actually goes into the DOM or the source code of the website. And if I click this, it will tell me that this is your baseline and this is your checkpoint. So this is baseline, this is checkpoint. So it has moved by 14 pixels or something. If you look at this one, the bounding box has moved. And if I go here, so again, image, this has moved by some 100 pixels or something. So it goes to that level of detail, which is amazing. But having said that, one of the major bugs which you might not have noticed is, so if you see here, so if I just remove it for now, there is a checkout button which has come, which was there in the baseline, but there's no checkout here in the actual test, the second time when we tested in the checkpoint. So that is kind of a bug for me, because you should only check out when you have selected some items in your dumpster or something, you know. Based on my, again, hey, I don't work with content, but this is based on my, you know, like a good guess, I would say, the tester. So I would see why this happened. Like if I can go to root cause analysis and click this guy, it would say that the baseline had no element found and the checkpoint had a use element found, something like this. And this is amazing for the UI developers, because they can straight away see that what went wrong at what point of time. Because on the right hand side, you can see there's an anchor tag, ng star inserted. Oops, sorry. Let's go back. Yeah, and on the left hand side, it's a button. So checkout button. So this flow got originated, and you would have only noticed when writing Selenium test, like for the fact, I would have only, I'll just remove this thing. I would have only done testing that, okay, Apple is there and Apple loose just shows one apple, and I would have tested something like this, and I would have tested one item and done. I would have never been able to find a bug like this. And now you will say that, how can I avoid something like this? I don't want to have these sort of, I mean, you just don't want to have these things cropping in. So your test shouldn't fail. It should give you a legit failure. So there's a way you can ignore these areas of the test. And one thing is, so they have a pretty cool algorithm match where it says strict. So strict is it strictly compares the two things. Content is it's comparing the content, but still it sees the difference between the content. So what we can do is, if we know that our content is fine and will be fine, we can ignore these regions from our check. So I'll say ignore region. I can do something like this. And I would say if there are other steps, so it will ignore them. For the next one, ignore region again. And I would say just ignore this guy for me. I don't want it. And I can put another ignore here. So this is pretty cool. So I mean, I know for a fact you'll be thinking, I'm adding ignore to so many areas, but even if this moves by some pixels, I'm not interested in. It's fine. Like website is not getting, we are not getting a call from our customers that what's the issues and why is there an issue or something. That's why I'm putting ignores there. But hey, think of example where you have, like those content where we keep on buzzing stuff on your website, or a container where you have, advertisements displayed, something like news advertisement or something. So for those kind of areas, this thing comes in really handy. So, and I'll say save, and it says successful. One thing I have to do is I should rename my test, because that is where that was the old test. And I'll just run the test quickly again. So what I've done is I've ignored the regions where I knew that my data was correct, and I just wanted to focus on the actual part. So it's again running the first test as a regression, because we have the first test where it just searches for gala apples. I hope everything works fine as expected. Okay, and searches for loose. It's pretty cool, eh? Because like 2 or 3 steps and you just run your test. And so first test was checking the search functionality, and it's already done it for you. So you don't need to code those heavy automation tests. So again, we have an issue which it has detected for the second test, which is apple loose test search gala apple loose, which is this test, the second one. So let's go on the thing. Okay, let's open it up. So it seems that one or more element has moved. That's interesting. It seems the elements were recovered by ignore regions, changed their positions. Would you like to realign? Yeah, I would. That's pretty awesome, because it's giving me a tip that the elements which I put in ignore regions have moved a bit. So, but that's fine. If you notice that we have again caught the same issue, check out to this thing, and it is now showing me some other differences here, which is fine. But the regions which I can still ignore the same regions again doing the same thing. But if you see the regions which I ignored, they are not getting highlighted, and I could actually look at the actual bug. So what I can do here is I can add a region or a bug issue, something like this here. Or not here actually. I can do it something like this. And I can say, this shouldn't be invoked, or this should be invoked, left or right, whatever, based on the requirement. I mean, this shouldn't be invoked. And then I can highlight key differences. If you want to see the key differences in one shot, you can do something like this. You can use this tab. Yeah, see, it's pretty awesome. And I can, so what this thing does is, this is another cool feature. It says that your elements, because of the reactive based nature of the website, or for them have to or the DOM, for the people who have knowledge about DOM getting rendering and all, there will be 1 or 2 pixels or 10 pixels here and there. So it has moved all of those displacements out, and it is just showing me what is the real issue here. So it has moved these things, and it shows me the real issue here. which is again a pretty cool feature. That this is I've also only wanted. I just want to, if you don't want to ignore something, you want to actually get to the main issue. So this is the main issue. And then what else? So it had, yep, these were the things which worked for me. I didn't check out the visual locators, but one thing, I didn't try it out, but on the materials, they had an awesome demo about how we can add this test to Azure DevOps. And we can also, if we do something like this, we can also integrate it to the Jiras of the world, where you can actually raise a bug from here and it actually raises a bug inside Jira. So that was one thing. Before going, one thing which I will show you and talk about also is, so we did a demo of the fast grid feature. First, let me show you that guy and then talk about it. Oops. My bad. Grid, visual grid. Okay, control. So what visual grid does is, so visual grid is it's like a parallelized cross-browser, cross-device, cross-viewport testing mechanism, which is created by IP tools, which, for example, I ran my test case on the Windows 10, and I gave it different OS browser viewport combinations. And in 1 second, it ran it inherently. I didn't have to do a lot of integration or stuff. I mean, that is the whole code, and it's already on one of their websites, like test. So this is this much, and I was able to generate 15 different viewport snapshots for the countdown main page. So basically, I'm talking that I was able to do my cross-browser, cross-device testing without using device forms of the world straight away. Just using their visual grid feature. So I'll just show you one of them. So this is the iPad mini view on Linux OS, and this is how the front. So this was the main image, the baseline image. This is how it looks. And let's go back to others. If you are interested, let's see, an iPhone SE should be very small. Yep, for iPhone SE, it's really small, but it works. And when I ran another iteration, the second iteration, it again, let's compare iPhone X. So this one I didn't touch. So this was what I meant by, like you can ignore regions here. So everything was also passing except this thing, because this is like a banner which keeps on changing for a countdown. This was pretty amazing. I mean, this just blew me off, because I can, like, not more than half an hour or something, just set it up and trying. I was able to test in multiple device and browser combinations. And then it actually got me thinking, what if, like, as testers, we basically use different fundas or tools and stuff to, align our website or just check our website on different devices, like we'll start an emulator or something like that. This feature on this, just running on one particular page, gives me a real value in terms of checking it straight away, how the design will look, and I can share my like whatever things which I've found. Say, for example, if the button wasn't working or this wasn't aligned properly, I can share it with the design team and they can work on it. So it's pretty cool in that aspect also, that it helps you test your application page pretty quickly on different combinations of viewports and devices. And yep, so that was this thing. And let's go back to the demo. Conclusion. So after everything, you guys can type questions for me that do we actually require visual testing? For me, it was yes. Answer is a big yes. Reasons. Quick bug detection. As you found, we coded for functional tests for, search functionality, but we were able to detect the error where it was giving a checkout button instead of just, being a $0 button. It adds to the quality of code and the UI, because you already have your functional unit test, functional test, integration test, as showed by Navi in your, that's test automation funnel. But when you add a visual test, automation test level of automation on top, it will increase your code quality. Like regression reduction, definitely, and control views on different devices. So basically, you can, as I showed you, for 15 different combinations, I was able to run the test pretty quickly and get the result output back. And then do another run and do a comparison. So it controls your view of your websites on different devices. As we discussed, it gives effective feedback for designers, the people who want to, like somebody who designs his stuff on a Mac or a Windows-based thing on a PowerPoint, they can easily get a quick feedback using API tools that, okay, this is how it will look on Linux, this is how it will look on this device. Code reduction, as again touched on this, that there are 3 or 4 lines of code I had to do the search functionality test. It would have taken me at least, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours to write this sort of test if I had no code. Or if I had some like framework there, it still would have taken me half an hour of coding effort, but this was just 3 or 4 lines of code. And it reduces the workload for testers. Definitely, if there is code reduction, it will improve to code quality. And then as an automation tester, I can focus on more business critical scenarios. Okay, that was me. Thank you, folks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Manil. Okay, we will open this up to another round of Q&A. And Manila forwarded over some of the questions that came through. Do you see them? If not, I can go ahead and read them off for you.
Okay, yeah, I think, yeah, let's do them. Okay, questions, I can take this bar out. Can you still see my screen?
No, actually, we don't see your screen, but we do see you on camera.
Okay, yeah. Okay, let's do make a presenter, show my screen, let's talk this way. Okay, oops. Where are the questions? Yeah, there are the questions. Okay. Wow, okay. Can apply this concept for API test. Sorry, my friend. We can do funky things, like I showed you that if you search for Gala apples, only 2 get returned. So you can do that sort of API testing, but this is anything on UI or visual, that's what you do. I mean, but you can work it out for yourself. Like you can run an API and test on the screen that 2 things are coming on. How we come to know that first run is matched with pixel to pixel is correct, one to compare with the second run? That's a pretty loaded question. So it doesn't do pixel to pixel comparison, Kangal. It does like a snapshot to snapshot comparison with a lot of AI and ML implemented under the hood, with like experience of different developers and researchers which have gone into this tool. So if your question is how we come to know, it's as I explained, like the first has actually passed in our demo here. So let me go back and show you. So when I coded my first Gala Apple test, so this basically passed. Everything was the exact pass. So that's how I came to know everything is passing and it's matching snapshot to snapshot, and AI and ML have everything located, and it has nothing which is missing. So that's why we don't have the high difference button. So that's how you come to know. And you can go a bit fancy with your coding and return like true, which in my case this would have returned true. That's why my assertion didn't fail here, and it failed at the second point, which is line number 59 here. So that's how you come to know. Does the data needed to go to API tool server, or it can go to local installation? That's a good question, Amit. I will keep that for the API tool team. I know there will be obviously security requirement when you're talking government agencies and banks. Even we have something like that. But I'll ask somebody to get in touch with you with exact words on it from the API tools team. What happens if the content search is smart and personalized to refine search based on your shopping history? Very good question, Lakshmi. If it is pretty smart, then you will add parameters that it has basically saved for you. So that's basically testing the smart feature in your search. And that itself would be a functional test that you will code for. So basically, what I'm trying to say is you will do all those fancy setup upfront, run the test first time, have a baseline comparison, and then run the test again to see that is that smart comparison coming back again or something else is coming back. Like if you search for Royal Gala apples, or if that person always buy apples, is apples coming in or something else is coming in if you get on the main page. So it's just more of a how do you, it's like functional testing scenario. Is it possible to share test report with links to screenshot? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Let me show you. Yeah. You can, I think there's a share button here. Yep, okay, yeah, this is the guy. So you can do a share, URL copied, and you can just copy this URL and give it to the people who have, they should have account with Apple. Oops. What is the best tool suggested for automation? What is the best tool you suggest for automate testing? Selenium? Shri Krishna. That's a pretty open-ended question. So I would say, as one of the other questions in the chat with Navdip, my criteria for choosing a tool is, again, what your dev stack is, as the guy pointed out. If you're using JavaScript-based engine like Angular or something, I will definitely recommend going for something like Cypress or Protractor. Protractor is actually replicating. So Playwright. So Playwright is another favorite which I have these days. But having said that, Selenium 4 is now coded to the standard on which your browsers are made. So Selenium is not really far behind, and with some bit of fancy coding and JavaScript usage inside Selenium, you can actually still use Selenium for a lot of different 70% of your problems or 70% of your implementations. But having said that, it's always good to try other tools, and you will know the value of those tools once you have an issue with Selenium that you can't solve, but you can solve in that. But other tool. Any best tool resources suggest for AWS crowd resources apps? Just get in touch with me, Krishna, on LinkedIn, and we can chat further. Okay, on this thing, because it's a pretty, it's a very subjective question. The point of not asking the tester to use a fancy tool for automation, it more towards the best possible tool. If it could started from where do you think development stack I need to do with QA selecting data? Yeah, Nathan. So again, in my experience, so I was a manual tester back home in India. I gained, obviously I was a software engineer, so I had coding done in my college, and I learned coding with time. So the idea of dev stack being similar to the automation tool stack is that you can actually integrate your whole testing project into one solution of your front end or back end solution, and it will be easier for you when we start talking about infrastructure as automation, or something like when you start talking about Dockers of the world. Like, I mean, you can deploy your whole front and back and make it run on a Docker, and then start your test automation test. And you should always get your pull requests approved by the dev team, because they will give you good practices and development patterns, something like solid principles, which you can implement in your automation test. So, and they can actively help you in scaling up your automation also. So that's why in my experience, it's always good to select a tool based on your development stack. And hey, 7 out of 10 shops already have something. And if you think you want to go, like if you want to implement something else, as Navi pointed out, do a POC, solve 4 or 5 problems or the 4 or 5 business functional test scenarios in the company with whatever tool you want to use, put them into a CI/CD pipeline, add a monitoring step on top of it, and getting an email out to the business owners. And hey, if it is approved by the people, then that's a tool for you, right? Okay. Sure, thanks. Okay, thank you guys. I think I've answered all of them. One of them, I think I told somebody to get in touch with me. Please get in touch with me. Any other questions, folks?
Fantastic. Okay, if you will just take another minute, if anyone has any additional questions for Navdip or Manil, we can go ahead and place them in the questions in the Q&A panel, and we'll go ahead and get that answered. We're also going to post, since we've got quite a few questions here about the capabilities for an Applitools Eyes account, I'm going to post in the chat, and also I will try to get it posted in the questions section in case, for those that are unable to see the chat section, a link for you to create your own free account on Applitools. Okay, looks like we don't have any additional questions coming in, but we are seeing some big thanks for our speakers. Great talk today. And this webinar is being recorded and it will be shared by the end of this week. If you have any additional questions for our speakers, feel free to reach out to them on LinkedIn, or I'm not sure if either of you shared a Twitter handle or not, but you can definitely reach out to them on the social networks. The LinkedIn event will still be live on LinkedIn, so you can also reach out to them there as well. All right, and that free account link has been shared. Manil, thank you so very much. We do appreciate it.
Thanks,
Okay.
Patrice.
Thanks.
It was like,
Patrice.
it was nice questions. Good, thank you.
All right, fantastic. Everyone have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.